Here we go. Hi, welcome back to. I'm sticking with the episodes thing. This is now episode 4 of Nights Nuggets because we had an interlude where a friend of mine
Yeah, you cheated on me.
training. I did. I cheated on
Yeah.
you. I apologise. But it was quite a fun episode. It was lots
Yeah,
of.
it only hurt a lot, so it's fine. I won't worry about it. No, I watched
You're
it.
back.
I watched it early today, in fact.
I've missed you.
Yeah.
If that makes a bit of difference.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's cool. So let's just delve straight into things. So I went last time first, so it's only fair to sort of your honour. You can go first this time. So again, we had a couple of questions each. What's your first one?
So the first question I had was, when is the best time for me to have a cheat meal from someone?
If you'd listened to episode 3, you'd have heard the goat of anger. That'll be about now where it comes out. What really gets my goat is a cheat meal.
So when is the best time to have a cheat meal? I'd probably answer that question with a question. When is the best time for you to cheat on your partner? Or when is the best time for you to cheat in your sport? And if there isn't an answer to that one, which there probably shouldn't be, there isn't a best time to cheat on your diet, because cheating doesn't have positive connotations. You shouldn't be cheating on something anyway. As soon as you say you're cheating on something, that implies that whatever you're doing is bad, and eating food, regardless of what it is, isn't bad. So for me, the question isn't when you should have cheat meals, it's you should not be branding your food as cheating.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, kind of mirror yours. I don't think cheat meal just implies that you're demonizing food, and that's just not a thing you should do. I think there's, and again, that we could counter this off with the classic "it depends." I think there is, just from working with people in the past, and some people are very different, and it depends on the person's mentality. By and large, I think implying that you're cheating on your diet just says that you're doing a dickish move, which is a thing. If you're one of those people that's kind of all or nothing, as in you can either have all of the cake or you have none of the cake, then, it's kind of it's a moderation thing. And there's a case of kind of being a little bit sensible about it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's an element, if you start, so I had this conversation with somebody quite recently, and if you are training for a thing, let's say if you're conscious about your diet, that thing's probably going to be kind of a fat loss or a weight loss type of thing. Massive aspersions cast, but let's go along that vein. If you're in the gym 4 or 5 times a week and you're slogging out, you're burning your calories, you're looking into everything around that, you're probably going to take a little bit more love and attention to your diet. So therefore, you're probably not going to be the guy that has all the cake. Whereas you'll probably go, do you know what? I've gone through the week of training, I've trained really hard and everything else, and I feel like a thing. And that thing might be a cake, it might be a biscuit, it might be a hot chocolate, it might be some marshmallows on your hot chocolate. It could be any number of things. That shouldn't be conceived as a cheat. That should be, fuck it, have it. You like it, eat it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think there are a few things to unpack with that. I saw something the other day where someone was like, have this thing and eat a certain way, but don't be an arsehole. And for me, that's bad as well, because if you are describing a way of eating as being an arsehole, if you're literally saying, even if someone overeats and goes past what they want to, past what they maybe should for their goal, beyond what people should be eating in one meal, for example, if you describe that as being an arsehole, you're an arsehole.
You're an arsehole, correct.
There are a lot of different ways that people can be an arsehole. Eating food, no matter what that food is, how nutrient dense or calorie dense it is, doesn't make you an arsehole, but it makes the person describing you as one. A couple of things you mentioned there. So like you said, if you have an all or nothing mindset, cheat meals are the worst thing for that, because they're sort of facilitating that. What you need to deal with isn't when you should have a cheat meal. It's dealing with that all or nothing mindset. And that's something that you can correct. And there are various different ways, reasons that people have that and ways you can correct it. But that's the issue that you need to resolve rather than the timing of a cheat meal.
Yeah. Agreed. I think cheat meal is just a bullshit term that needs to get out of the industry, just needs to get in the bin, because it's just nonsense. I think we tapped on this in a previous chat where, the kind of term cheat meal was made by like when The Rock put the massive stack of pancakes out, and that kind of thing. But we think we hit that on the first one of these, I think. But
Yeah, probably.
it's just, as a term, it just needs to get in the bin.
It
It's
has
not,
cheating has no positive connotation in any other walk of life, and therefore it doesn't have any in dieting either, or in terms of nutrition. So yeah, it needs to get in the bin.
Yeah, 100%. Just don't be a dick to yourself. Is basically the kind of thing. If you want the food, eat the food.
Yeah, include all foods as part of whatever you are planning to do.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you've got like a weight cutting goal, how much of those foods you can include will change, and that's nutrition, that's performance nutrition, that's life. But it doesn't mean a complete exclusion of those foods for life and then branding them as a cheat, because that's a one-way ticket to disordered eating and long-term getting worse results.
Yeah.
So like I think like there are a couple of my mates that work in this industry that joke that I really like the soft skills, behavior change, like mindset stuff element of this. And I don't just do it to be really fluffy and nice and that, oh, this is bad for you. You should be more compassionate and nicer to yourself. I say this because the overwhelming body of evidence is huge that people don't realize, but all the literature supports this as being best for short-term and long-term outcomes in terms of diet, training, life in general. Like we always talk about how things should be a lifestyle change and long-term change. This is the way to do it. And this is why I bang on about it for so long, because we have good evidence that shows that this is going to lead to a better outcome and a happier you, which is what we want.
100%. There's a big thing. I don't know how much you've sort of gone around. There's the biopsychosocial model, which fits kind of everything. Everyone fits into those brackets in some form or another. You could make a kind of pie chart of it, and sort of how much people fit into things. But there's a huge amount of that. And I think with sort of dieting and nutrition and sort of performance nutrition or just general food, a lot of it comes down to kind of social aspects. There's I won't name names because that's not fair, but there's a friend of mine who's been doing Slimming World, and they've lost a bucket load of weight. They look amazing, done really, really well for themselves, and all credit to them. They put the work in, they did their thing, and that's a model that worked for them. But it's then challenged them going out for dinner with their partner or going to their mates' houses and such. If someone makes food, they'll bring their own Tupperware of food, or they'll just be really cautious about what they're eating. So they've just in their head put this massive thing that all food is bad unless it's Slimming World approved. And like, although you've done the work to get there, there has to be an out, and that just comes down to being nice to yourself. And I think that's another chat entirely. We're about to delve into a whole other topic there, but
yeah, I guess we spoke about health last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
And health isn't just your body fatness or body fat percentage. Like there are the mental, social elements of health as well, which people just forget and just completely ignore.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people's barriers to working with someone to help them with their nutrition is, oh, they're going to stop me from eating a certain thing. I'm going to stop you from stopping yourself to eat a certain thing and tell you to carry on eating that thing. I'm not the person to take food and slap it out of your hand. So yeah, you need to think about the person on a wider level and not just the physiology in front of you.
Yeah. And it's the social thing is huge. And, we all like to go out for dinner with our mates and have a few beers and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
go do that. Live. I mean, not at the moment because everything's shut, but in a few weeks' time, when and if things open up again, people are going to want to see their mates, and then we have Christmas. So, that's a massive time for kind of indulgence and eating and celebrating and, having a little bit of a lavish time and that sort of thing. So, do you know what? Go do. You'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be fine. Nice. I think that's a pretty solid start.
Yeah.
We'll do the first question. I had a question from Scott. Now, this is an interesting one because I didn't know how to answer it. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on you here, mate. So Scott's asked, how should we adjust our nutrients or our nutrition if we get a cold or similar, if at all? Now, I replied basically along the lines of kind of calorie needs. So if you assume a 7-day week and you've got 5 days of training in that 7-day week, you're probably going to want to eat more on your training days to fuel those sessions and aid recovery and that kind of thing. If you get a cold or similar, you're probably not going to be training as much, if at all. So in terms of an adjustment, you would probably want to reduce calories a little bit. But then you kind of get into that old adage of, feed a cold, starve a fever, or the other way around, whichever one it goes. Fact of the matter is, I didn't know the answers to this one. So would you adjust your nutrition if you got sick, or would you not bother?
I wouldn't adjust energy intake personally. I think I mean, we have, particularly if someone has a temperature, there's some quite old research showing that for every degree that your temperature goes up, your basal metabolic rate goes up by about 13%. I think it is, just off the top of my head. Um, and it's just like, it's the same with injury. And people, as soon as they get injured, will think, well, I can't train. Best go to 300 calories a day then. And you just think, well,
Nope.
like, it's obviously, I understand people's body comp concerns, but your primary concern is returning to normal. So, like, not being injured, not being ill. Personally, I'd rather spend a couple of weeks, particularly with illness, because it doesn't last long, doing everything I can to reduce how long I'm ill for. So for me, like, maintenance calories are maybe even like slightly higher. It's just a safe way of just getting rid of your cold as soon as possible. Like, being the calorie deficit is the stressor. Stressors probably reduce our ability to like fight illness, like heal injuries, etc. Don't add another unnecessary stressor onto something when you've already got loads and you're basically trying to heal something. So yeah, in terms of energy, I probably wouldn't change a great deal. Again, it would depend on training, because a lot of people train with a cold. Like, if you've not got symptoms like below your neck or whatever people say, a lot of people will train with a cold. So it might be that your energy intake isn't affected at all anyway. And then in terms of, a lot of people say, like, now I've got a cold, what should I do? There are a couple of supplements with a little bit of research showing they might work. So zinc lozenges have been shown to reduce the duration of a cold for like 3 days, by 3 days even. So that's quite a nice, like, evidence-based, like, you just let them dissolve on your tongue. Don't taste particularly pleasant. But like, it's available in supermarkets and stuff, or online. And there's some fairly decent research showing that they'll reduce how long you're ill for. So for me, that's a bit of a no-brainer to have in the house, just in case most people get a cold once or twice a year. So
Yeah.
Other things that might be worthwhile, like a vitamin C, like, it's probably decent research showing that vitamin C, so there are certain, like, immune cells that have quite high concentrations of vitamin C, but when we're ill, those concentrations are reduced. So we're trying to restore those concentrations back to what they normally would be. You can normally get, so we're looking at about 200 milligrams. So like somewhere between 200 milligrams and 0.75 grams, so 750 milligrams of vitamin C. You can get about 200 milligrams through your diet if you wanted to, just by being really cautious and thoughtful about what you're going to eat and mindful of it. Or you can supplement with it. So a vitamin C supplement's not the worst idea in the world. Vitamin D, as always, is just very good for general health, immune function. So they're the main things I think about. Hydration as well, really important in terms of helping to prevent and also with recovery from illnesses as well. But they're the main things I'd focus on. So keep energy about the same for the few days that you're ill for. Zinc lozenges, vitamin C, vitamin D, and stay hydrated.
Cool. Cool.
Is that enough?
I couldn't answer the question, so I've got nothing to come back with that. But no, that I mean, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And the kind of, yeah, the adjustment of kind of calories in, calories out. I don't know many people that's at the top of their mind when they've got a cold. If I've got a cold, I'm too busy trying not to die, because it's definitely man flu.
Yeah.
And it's definitely trying to kill me. So if I get out the other side of a cold, I feel like someone needs to give me a big pat on the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Man flu is quite serious.
It's very serious. It's very serious. And only to the little bug that's floating around at the moment.
Yeah, there is something going around. So that was my next thing, is that what I've just said, in no way am I saying that if you get that other illness, will it help prevent, solve, cure, help with anything like that?
I feel like now would be a really good time to caveat, neither of us are doctors.
No.
So don't take this as medical advice. This is purely based on, adjusting nutrition, if at all, if you get sick. If you get sick, speak to your doctor. Don't listen to us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Probably a good point.
Some of the things we've just said as general recommendations wouldn't hurt you anyway, so they're absolutely fine. A probiotic is potentially the other one that I'd consider. So there's a little bit of research in terms of that helping with immune function and sort of, illness, not treatment, but reduction of symptoms and things like that. So it's quite a nuanced topic. So if anyone wants more information, then feel free to drop me a message and we can chat a little bit about them as a person rather than just wide scale, huge recommendations on it.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. At CV Nutrition _ feel free to drop me a message.
Correct.
Yeah.
Email?
Yeah, charliebeastone@outlook.com, because my other ones doesn't work anymore. So
excellent. Let's talk about that one then.
Yeah, we won't talk about
awesome. There you go. Nice. What was that? That was like 15 minutes in. Strong. I like it.
Good.
That said, if you have questions on that, don't come to me. I'm not good at that one. So cool. So hopefully, Spot, that's answered your question a little bit better than I could. In fact, that's completely countered what I said, because I said maybe you would adjust your calories, but don't do that. It sounds like a stupid thing.
You only said maybe, and you said maybe you would. So maybe he would. It doesn't mean you're saying that he should. Yeah. That's very different.
Yeah, but I'm going to get attacked now. You told me eat 100 calories a day. Don't do that ever.
Don't do that.
Ridiculous. Awesome. Cool, man. So you had another one. What was your next question?
Oh, I did. Someone said, if I were to change or do 2 things during lockdown with to help with my nutrition, what would you recommend? And 2 was quite an interesting number. Normally people would say, what's the one thing? But 1 wasn't enough for this person, so we need 2.
I'm a fan. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So the number 1 would be consume a plant-based diet. So when people say, oh, do you think I should go plant-based? I always say yes. And then people are like, oh, I can't believe you're plugging in veganism or vegetarian. I'm like, I'm not. I said you should be plant-based.
Yeah.
Plant-based means the majority of your diet should come from plants.
Yeah.
Veganism means no animal products, and that's quite a big difference. I don't work with many people that wouldn't improve in some capacity their health or performance if they, what am I trying to say? They do better if they eat more plants, basically. So yeah, like 7 portions of fruit and veg plus loads of different like plant-based protein sources alongside animal sources, so like beans, lentils, nuts, etc. Just better for your gut, help you reduce the risk of deficiencies in various things, and it adds a bit of variety to food as well, which is very nice. So that'd be number 1, eat more plants. And then number 2 would be sort of based on the answer to the first one, is give yourself permission to eat what you want. And normally counterintuitively, if you give yourself permission to eat anything, you'll then find it easy to dial down what you actually do want to eat, and you'll eat fairly like normally for you and probably with your health in mind. If you start saying something's off limit because I'm not training, it's lockdown, you'll end up really wanting that thing and eating loads of it. So like we said earlier, so no restriction, give yourself permission to eat anything you like. And that sort of sets the foundations for you to set better habits, better nutrition goals, process goals, things that you're going to do every single day that will make you better, which probably include eating more plants. So they're the 2 things that I'd say would be important. Eat more plants, give yourself permission to eat some food.
So on the plant-based one, there's a really good book, I don't know if you've read, called How Not to Die. It's quite extreme, but the guy that wrote it, Dr. something Greger, Michael Greger, I think his name was, something like that, an American guy. It was a friend of mine put me onto this. I'm a big fan of meat, big fan. And he went plant-based, and it was the usual kind of banter that went between him and our mates and everybody else of saying, whatever. But he went there purely for health reasons. So I won't go into all of that because that's a whole other conversation. But he recommended this book to me, and I got it on Audible as a reader, as an audiobook. And it's cool because it's not preachy. And the guy's backed up everything he said with research. So he's got a website, which is nutritionfacts.org, which is well worth a look at, because you'll go on there and basically in this book, How Not to Die, every chapter is how not to die from X, colon cancer, heart attacks, angina, whatever it might be. And it's one of those, but it's the most infuriating thing I've ever read because it's all correct. And basically it says all of these illnesses, then back to eating meat, but it's not preachy. So it's saying like, if you want to eat meat, you crack on, but here's what you can expect. I'm not telling you not to eat it. And it's really kind of just quite matter of fact. And like, here's all the facts. And then it says at the end of each chapter, here's all my research. And then you look at it all and it's really good research. And I hate the man for it. I tried so hard to make him wrong and I couldn't.
See, I'll give it a go at making it wrong here, because I've read little bits of this research. Mostly when people started watching What the Health, and told me that veganism was better for them. So all of the research compares like meat eaters versus like vegans, for example, and like the comparison between the two, and whether you think that one's better than the other is sort of up for debate. What isn't that well researched is if you continue eating animal products and like meat and things like that, and then increase the amount of plants, do you get the same results as going like vegan? And I personally believe you do, because most people that are like have a very high animal product intake, very low plant-based intake, don't have all those micronutrients, they don't have enough fiber, things like that. If you just add, and that's why I always say, like, you can keep meat in, if you add more plants, will you get the same effect? And I personally believe you would, plus with all the benefits of eating meat in terms of micronutrients, protein, etc., particularly for lifters. So that's my stance on it. And if you want to do veganism for ethical reasons, absolutely fine. Like, I've never stopped anyone for that. But I do think get you a diet that can do both, as I believe they say.
Nice.
So I think yeah, you can do both. I just realised my lights. There you go.
Oh, look at that.
That was angelic, wasn't it?
That was amazing. Oh, this is going to suck. People on the podcast, you didn't see what just happened. Charlie just
my light just came back on for some reason. And it was as if I was putting God's advice across to the people.
Correct.
I lit up from on high and became an angel. But yeah, that's my stance, is that you can do both. But everyone should increase their plant intake.
Yeah, 100%. And like I say, I mean, the book itself was quite interesting reading. He's written a few other ones as well, and there's like a cookbook he made and stuff as well. So the biggest one around that I get is that people just aren't sure what that looks like. So I sort of steamed broccoli, bit of rice. That, like, people are really unsure of what to make, but there's actually some really sort of high nutrient, really quite delicious foods that you can make with plants. So like my advice was like, invest in a vegan cookbook or a vegetarian cookbook and just go to town, and you can make them as whole meals themselves or as sides or whatever to accompany. So, but yeah, no, I completely mirror what you're saying. There's certainly no harm in eating more veg. I don't know anyone that's had issues because they ate too much veg. No,
not unless you're like a very niche medical thing, like IBS people who have high fiber can have issues with smashing loads more fiber down them. But yeah, on the whole, you are right. General pop, normal. I say normal people as if IBS people aren't normal.
How dare you?
Yeah, without you weirdos with IBS, everyone else will be fine by increasing their veg intake.
It's fine. We can laugh because I know one of my best mates has got IBS, so it's okay. We can laugh at this.
Yeah, I'm commenting on it professionally, so it's fine.
Correct.
I'm not being personal. It's not an attack on them.
Awesome. Yeah, moving swiftly on. But no, so I think, eating more veg is a really solid one. And then your second point, that was the first point of how to adjust. Your second point was?
Give yourself permission to eat.
Give yourself permission to eat. That's it, yeah. Just be nice. Don't be a dick to yourself. We're going back to that again, aren't we? Yeah, like lockdown's pretty stressful. So don't add more stress. And I think the same thing from like, I mean, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to give you the answer anyway, because I can. From a training point of view, people are really antsy because the gyms are shut and they can't go and lift weights. You can't squat, you can't bench, you can't snatch, you can't clean, you can't do stuff. Make the best of what you've got. It's kind of if you need to keep yourself moving. I think we touched on this as well before. It's just kind of try and keep skill high. So if you're an Olympic lifter, there's an awful lot of skill in weightlifting for us. Like just to complete a snatch, it's a horrendous movement. So you should be trying everything you can to keep that movement quite nice. So like overhead squats, and just kind of move around into those points so that when you get back under a bar, you're not starting from one. So keep the skill high. You haven't got weights to use, but you could find things to load with, and you can get creative. But for the most part, don't be a dick. Keep the stress levels low. Keep your skill levels high. Give yourself permission to have a day off and chill and work on more bits and pieces.
On that point, I pointed out to someone the other day because they said lockdown's really getting to me about training because I can't get any better. And I was like, well, actually, you can't get any stronger because you can't lift the same loads you were. You can certainly get better as a lifter. Like you say, you can do the skill stuff. You can do your mobility that everyone ignores but really needs to do, myself included.
No.
No. So yeah, you can certainly get better. You can focus on learning how to cook more recipes, get a hand on your food for a few weeks, that sort of thing. You can 100% get better as a lifter. You probably can't get stronger. But there are times for that and times when you should probably focus on the other things as well.
Yeah. And now's as good a time as any, because unless you're fortunate enough, you manage to get some kit and you've got yourself a sort of half decent home gym, or a
Yeah,
setup
you're
you
lifting
can
off your
use, then
pins and things like that. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Heavy bottles of water. Bottles of
Yeah.
water, man. How many people are training with bottles of water are like tomato tins? Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Just home gym heroes. But yeah, so unless you were fortunate enough to get some stuff, then don't be a dick. You'll be all right. Bit of self-love. Anyway, let's move on. So last question I got was from James. And this is, just before we hit record, we were about to go into a big old discussion about this, because this could be a whole episode in itself. But James has asked, what does creatine do and how does it help training? So creatine is a huge topic.
Yeah.
And to my mind, one of the most researched supplements. There's a bunch of different types of creatine. I think the sort of the safe bet is creatine monohydrate. You just mix it in with a bit of juice or water, or put it in your after workout shake, or however you want to take it. But yeah, creatine helps. It just kind of helps fuel the kind of energy systems, for want of a better way of putting it, to execute fast twitch movements. It will help grow muscle mass, that kind of thing. So certainly from a lifting perspective, I recommend all lifters should take creatine, and that's a big statement to make. But it's just going to help in terms of getting stronger, increasing those kind of fast twitch movements, for kind of one-off mass exertion lifts, like lifters. I don't necessarily think anything over kind of like 400-meter sprint time is going to help very much. I wouldn't necessarily give it to marathon runners, but definitely anyone that's sort of working for max effort for sort of 10 seconds or less, 15 seconds or less. Yeah, 100%. Take it.
Yeah. I agree. No, it's the most.
Nailed it.
It probably is the most researched supplement that we have, showing over and over again that it has a performance benefit, but also more recently a health benefit as well.
Yeah.
So on the performance side, like you say, if you can do more work, you'll get stronger, because more work done over time will probably increase strength. It increases hypertrophy for the same sort of reason, and that if you're doing more total load through the muscle, more of a stimulus, therefore your muscles will grow more. There's also another potential cool mechanism with the muscle growth stuff, in that most people know that it sort of draws water into the cell, and that's part of how creatine works. And then, so when you train, obviously the cells swell up when you get a pump, and that potentially has a signal for your muscles to grow. Like, that's potentially part of the signaling pathway. Creatine potentially, with that water coming into the cell, sort of helps with that sort of signal to the muscle to grow. So that's possibly another way that it helps with muscle growth as well, rather than, it's not just about the work that you're doing in the gym. There's probably something to do with the water, the cell swelling, and the signal there as well, which is a nerd I find quite interesting.
Same.
But yeah, more recently there's like a lot of stuff on like cognitive function, like neuroprotective stuff. There's some really nice research on concussion. I mean, if you're a lifter that's got concussion, you've done something pretty wrong. But like in like contact sports, like I work a lot in rugby, and there's some really good research showing that it could help with concussion symptoms, length of time that you're out for with a concussion, things like that. But yeah, just general cognitive function, particularly when your brain is under stress or has had stressors. So sleep deprivation is one, where certain cognitive tasks seem to be done better with creatine supplementation when two different groups are sleep deprived. So those that had creatine do better than when you don't. And then a couple of other ones, but yeah, for people, if you're not an elite marathon runner, you should probably be taking creatine. Old people as well, so it helps with muscle growth, like you say, muscle retention. In old people, that's a real issue. If we have less muscle's the primary site for glucose storage. If we've got glucose that can't be stored, it's floating around the blood, diabetes, things like that become an issue. And also, one of the primary causes of injury, illness, death in old people is falling. If you've got less muscle and less strength, more likely to fall. If you go to hospital, you're probably less likely to come back out. So old people as well, creatine's probably an evidence-based recommendation as well. So for most people, it's one that I recommend every single day, regardless of what their goal is or what they're doing.
Sound? Yeah. I mean, I went purely down the performance route, but I haven't. Yeah, the
Yeah.
health, kind of health reasons is
Mm-hmm.
massive. I mean, I've not kind of personally, I've not read the research around the sort of health points, but yeah, no, that's that's all pretty valid as well. I'd never really thought of prescribing creatine to grandma, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The only sort of caveat I put on creatine is just you should keep hydrated anyway, but there's a lot of people have a tendency. I'm saying a lot of people, like this is evidence. It ain't from a lot of people that I've spoken to, which is anecdotal at best. You get cramps from sort of taking it, so maybe stay hydrated, keep an eye on what you're eating and that sort of stuff. But
Yeah, the research on that's a funny one. It's a bit mixed.
it's muddled.
There's some showing that it actually has a beneficial effect in
Yeah.
hydration and reducing cramps. So, but yeah, with every benefit of taking creatine, there's a myth alongside it. So, like creatine function's a really popular one. If you've got healthy kidneys, then creatine won't seem to have any negative effect on them. If you haven't, don't listen to my advice because I'm not a dietitian or a doctor, so I'm not qualified to give you that advice. But yeah, for every person with healthy kidneys, there's no evidence. Dehydration, it doesn't seem to cause dehydration or make it worse. Some people report headaches with it. That's like you say, an anecdotal thing. For those people, maybe just don't take it or spread the dose out differently. I'm trying to think of other like quick fire Q&As around creatine, so I get asked like a million and
the
one
biggest
questions.
one I get is about the loading phase of creatine.
Yeah.
Now, I personally call bullshit. I think just kind of take it. So if it's saying take 3 doses of creatine for the first week a day and then 1 dose of 5 grams a day, I would just say start on 5 grams and just keep going because then it's in your system. But what's your take on a loading phase on it?
I tend to use a loading phase with people, but purely it gets you to the end result quicker. And for example, if you want to get the benefits of creatine, then it sort of makes sense to do it now rather than in 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks down the line. Taking it 5 grams per day will get you the same effect, but loading it over 5 days will get you there quicker, and we've got research that shows that as well. So yeah, I tend to get my clients to take 4 lots of 5 grams per day, spread out over 4 hours, and then a maintenance dose of 5 grams per day thereafter. You can do 2 lots of 5 grams per day, which I think research has shown takes about 4 weeks. 5 grams per day will take probably twice as long. But it'll get you to the same thing. The other one that I really hate is cycling creatine. There's no research to show that you need to cycle it. There's no rationale for cycling it. I know there's research that have shown people taking it day after day for years and had no negative effects or need to cycle. Timing's the other one. There might be some slight benefit of having it post-exercise or with a meal.
Yeah.
So it might be a sort of insulin-driven like mechanism. And obviously after having like carbohydrate meal, you'll get an increase in insulin, which might help. But for the vast majority of people, that doesn't matter. That might be relevant for weight cutters that cut it out and want to get back in. But for most people, it doesn't matter.
Interesting. So yeah, creatine, man, it's one of those weird ones. So I mean, the loading phase thing is, I'm of the opinion it gets you to where you're going to be. Again, you're far more qualified to talk about that than I am, so I'll go on yours. But it's with the loading phase, how much of that are you taking in? So if you're doing 20 grams a day for 5 days, how much of that are you taking in, or how much of that are you just pissing out?
So that's why if you did 20 grams in one dose, you would piss more out.
Yeah. Obviously spread it out. Yeah.
So like that's probably why if you do spread it out over 20 grams, that seems to be the limit. And I think they've done higher and found that that's sort of the limit for more than 20 grams in a day, and you'll excrete, or more than 5 grams in a dose, you'll excrete it.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
Yeah. The other thing that we forget, because obviously you've got some weight cutting guys, how long it takes for it to sort of return to baseline. And we don't have loads of research on this, but it probably is about 4 weeks. So if you are going to cut it out to make weight potentially because of the associated water weight that you'd lose, probably 4 weeks before comp. But I personally wouldn't cut it out because the benefits outweigh.
Yeah.
I'd rather someone lost a little bit more body fat and kept creatine in.
Yes. I was watching that as well. You took the words out of my mouth there. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. That was interesting. I enjoyed today. That was good. I've learned some stuff, and we've had a bit of a debate, which is nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'll take that. Cool, man. So I feel like we could wrap it up there. That's been just over half an hour. We've got a couple of good, really, really good questions answering that one. I feel like we kind of scratched the top of these questions. So if there's people that want us to delve a little deeper, just jump into our inboxes and ask. So obviously on Instagram, Charlie's at cbnutrition_. On Instagram, I'm at Redbeard Barbell Club or at Night Strength, whichever account you want to come to. But drop us questions based on what we've said. If you agree, if you disagree, if you want to chat about it, we're always up for a debate, always. Because like today, I've learned some stuff, which is awesome. So jump in and ask questions, because you might learn stuff, or you might teach us stuff, who knows. But yeah, and also on that, get some questions in for the next one. So I feel like, the sort of, we were originally looking to do these sort of every other week, but I feel like the sort of weekly ones, we're getting enough sort of questions at people that we could definitely keep these up weekly and sort of have kind of nutrition chat and training chat and that kind of thing. So get your questions in. Let's have a chat.
Yep.
Happy days. Nice, man. Right, I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to get this published up. Thank you ever so much for your time again.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
Apologies for cheating on you. That was wrong.
Just don't do it again. It's fine.
Don't do it again. I have to go. Nice Nuggets, episode 3.1.
Yeah.
Just like subtitle them. Here, subtitle? It's not subtitle. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking nonsense now. I'm going to hit stop. Cheers, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
See you later.